Yeah, Magnus will not be feeling comfortable in this situation. I've known Magnus a long time, and he really dislikes it when long-term he's suffering, when he has these ugly pawns and needs to compensate by showing real kind of energy and to kind of gamble in a way. And he is trying to gamble now. Bishop to c5. Robert, given a question mark, it drops a pawn. It's a big sacrifice, a committal sacrifice. Knight takes a5 is available for white. Is greed good here? Does Firouzja jump in and just call that bluff? I guess he's got to be worried about his kingside, but does Magnus have anything concrete against the white king? I must confess, I don't see it. I don't see any justification. Surely, if he wants to win this match, there we go. He does get greedy. He snaps off the pawn, and Magnus goes in. G for glory. Will he win this game? What do you make of this? Can white fend off the attack?
I think that Alireza is just in time. We talked about hooks, that g4 push. If there was something attacked on f3, would have pried open the white king side. But for now, everything is under control. h4 is a good move. If black had a queen on g6 already, then g3 becomes a deadly threat thanks to bishop on c5. But that seems quite a ways away, and white will see it coming, slide the king to the corner, and then maybe even move the bishop out to g3. Not now. Bishop g3 would simply blunder a piece. But in the future, the move bishop to g3, if the king is on h1, seems to have white's position looking safe and sound.
Yeah, king to h1, one of the first moves you mentioned, and then a bishop on g3. It looks like an unassailable fortress, and one that's actually cropped up in a lot of classic games throughout chess history, especially if white puts a bishop on g3 and that bishop's captured by the black knight. That pawn shelter, that pawn formation of pawns on g2, g3, h4, just no way through. White's king will live 1,000 years in the corner, kind of on the h2 square. So Firouzja, I think he's doing everything right. I think Armageddon is a big favorite in this one. Magnus does need some real magic in order to save this game. I don't see it. White is simply going to come back with the knight to c4, start pushing the a pawn or the b pawn. Full control, queen g3, queen f6, I was going to say, met by bishop g3, guarding everything. And this pawn formation, wow, Robert, I must admit, I missed this one, but Magnus allowing an endgame despite how bad the black pawns are.
Counterintuitive to trade queens when you're down material. All of our coaches taught us if you're trailing, you want more pieces on the board because endgames will not be favorable. But Magnus spots that the pawn structure may collapse very quickly with a bishop on f2 also hitting this rook on e1. So a very clever attempt from Magnus, and Alireza says, I'm not afraid, let's go. Outside passed pawns usually rule the day in the endgame. He brings his rook behind the b pawn. It gets a question mark. I am ridding us of that question mark. That is a good decision. I think Alireza is fully in charge.
Yeah, he is dominating this game. We said it earlier, any endgame favors white due to the power of the passed pawn. The white a pawn is likely to win this game. And I'm going to call it Alireza the a pawn. It's going to start sprinting forward very, very shortly. Magnus, though, what's he pausing about? Surely he has to snap off the pawn on g3 before it disappears, before the white king steps forward and defends it. He's a pawn down after all. The c6 pawn is collapsing. Look at those accuracy levels. Firouzja playing one of the games of his life. So important here. And he's playing so well, Robert. So strongly. And Magnus, okay, desperately trying to mix it. Pawn to f5. We see the eval bar not approving, not liking this move. But he's desperately trying. At least a source of counterplay, a source of light at the end of the tunnel for the black e-pawn. Is there a way to stop it running? That's the big question.
Looks difficult to stop. If the pawn captures on f5, which seems to be a natural try, there it goes. The bishop on f2 helps it out as you just rush the e-pawn up the board with the rook behind it for good measure. So Alireza right now, he sees how dangerous the position is. David, can he just grab this c6 pawn with his knight and then work around what will be an annoying e-pawn passer that black will try to turn into a queen?
I think he can. I think Alireza could get away with it, but that would, as you mentioned, allow counterplay. The move I would want to play here, if it works, if you can calculate, is rook to f1, just to try and take the black f5 pawn with your rook, kill the counterplay before it even begins, kill it at source, and if you can somehow kick the black bishop out of the way, take that pawn, you're just loving life. Black has no passes. Black can basically resign. The only complication is the fact that black might be able to play a move like bishop to b6, hitting the white knight. You have to work out that it all kind of falls into place. I don't see any reason not to, though, Robert. Bishop b6, I think you can just meet with knight takes c6 in that position. We're spitting out some variations, but this is all that's going through Firouzja's mind. He does not want to allow Magnus a glimmer of hope. I'm predicting rook f1. I think that's what he's trying to work out. He does not, by nature, want to allow any activity. Oh, wow, he just plays b4 instead. Whoa.
And that move, I actually think, deserves the question mark. Your rook f1 idea is well taken. It would have prevented black from getting this passed pawn. And f takes e4 certainly looks like a nice try. Bishop takes g3 at any moment is going to potentially win the h4 pawn. But David, this position, they don't have the evaluation bar by their side. They're going on their own. Magnus doesn't know that he suddenly has an opportunity because you play a move like pawn takes e4. I think that Alireza is just going to take this pawn at c6, pushes b, pushes a pawns, and those are hard to stop as well.
Yeah, still super difficult for black. As you say, Robert, correctly, the eval bar is not available for the players, so they know the momentum, the trend of the game. It's all been about white. Alireza is the one who's made things happen, who's got the long-term advantages. Magnus is in hustle mode, and there we go. What a move. Really classy move there from Magnus Carlsen. The white e-pawn, it's not running away anytime soon. Black's e5 pawn is the one that he wants to push down the board, but it needs support from the black rooks. And this black rook that he just moved was about to get kind of semi-trapped. Now it's going to spring forward. First, he gains time against the white knight, which is defended. And now, two passed pawns, double pawns all over the shop, Robert. Whose are more dangerous?
I would be thinking rook to b4 just to go after these pawns in the fourth rank, but that e-pawn is the one you need to stop. And of course, black will push it forward, and then again, and then one last time before it becomes a queen. So I would be super nervous here if I were Alireza Firouzja. The evaluation bar is at zeros. Neither player knows that. But I would say more than anything, it's become a game with all three results on the table. It looked like one-sided traffic. Now Alireza Firouzja is probably worried about how he continues because the e3, e2, e1 push is so obvious.
Yeah, Magnus Carlsen. I'm going to eat my words. I thought he was almost out of it. I thought he was devoid of any active counterplay whatsoever. But pawn to f5, that was just pure genius. Just giving him practical chances. And suddenly you can see it on the camera visibly. Firouzja is nervous. He realizes it's no longer within his grasp necessarily. He still needs to play really well and just to fend off black's active play. He's given the opponent a clear-cut plan, and that is the cardinal sin of rapid chess. 1 minute 30 against 4 minutes. Suddenly it's an uphill struggle. Suddenly Armageddon. It's a distant dream. Rook to b4, I love it, Robert. He plays it, Alireza. He is going for those black pawns, those weak pawns, and he's going to at least be able to stop from behind the forerunner, the black e4 pawn, if it steps forward. But where does Magnus now seek counterplay? It feels like it's just a totally irrational endgame, really hard to evaluate.
Irrational is a good word, not maybe necessarily in life, but for this position, because rook takes g4 is check. White currently has 6 pawns, black has 5. It's actually hard to count them because you see that they are all scattered. They're mostly isolated, and after rook takes g4, black will be a pawn down. So I would take this pawn on g4 and then try to bring my rook back to e4 to freeze black's pawns before they run forward. This is looking like a position where Magnus needs to prove that he can hold the half point. And whoa, as soon as I say that, the wrong move from Alireza and the blue arrow is in, David. Rook d2, and Magnus isn't just okay. Apparently he's winning.
Wow, Alireza missing the opportunity to grab a pawn for free with check. I'm not so sure about that one. He maybe was afraid of taking that pawn, allowing the black king closer towards the center, but of course Magnus jumps on that opportunity. He finds the move indicated by the blue arrow, exclamation point. E2 is coming, followed by rook to d1 check, and you're landing, you're touching down. That black pawn is going to become a new queen. It's coronation day almost, not just for the king, Magnus Carlsen, but for that e-pawn. Alireza, he lost control. He allowed too much counterplay. And suddenly, hard to even find a move, Robert. It's inevitable. You can't stop black's plan.
And I wonder what the difference was, because a turn ago, it was all zeros, and rook takes g4 that you could have stolen a pawn. I don't know why that would have changed the nature of this position. Rook f1 played. Black can, in fact, push the pawn to e2. You'll get this rook for a bishop and pawn. I wouldn't actually want that just yet. Can black slow down? David, can black be extra greedy, protect this bishop first, and then push the pawn next? Magnus does it.
Magnus does it. We saw that look on Magnus's face, that kind of momentary, like, that confusion, that frown. Why not? Why aren't I just winning right now? And I think it's starting to settle in. It's starting to kind of become real for both players. They know Alireza now down to 10 seconds. Nothing he can do. Pawn to e2 wins a whole rook. This might be the last few moves of the Chessable Masters 2024. Pawn to e2. Looks automatic here, Robert. Why not? The black bishop's defended. Nothing to do. Alireza looked away. 4 seconds left. Is this the final moments of the tournament?
It is Magnus Carlsen. He needed a draw, but he gets a win. And you can see that he is relieved. He's